Welcome back, class, to another set of lectures for Chapter 8, talking about intelligence. So, in the last lecture slides, we talked about intelligence tests. However, in this slideshow, we're going to talk about theories of multiple intelligence. The first person that we're going to talk about are Robert Sternberg. And he believed that is not only just one type of intelligence, but there were three types of intelligence. He believed that there was analytical intelligence, creative intelligence, and practical intelligence. So we're going to take a deep dive into what those types of intelligences are according to Robert Sternberg. For the first one, he believed that there was a type of intelligence called analytical intelligence. And analytical intelligence really deals with using the prefrontal cortex. And, with the prefrontal cortex, you have to be able to really compare, to contrast, to be able to judge and evaluate. And so if you think about it, since you're a student, all during school, a lot of times what they're testing you on is your analytical intelligence, to be able to evaluate, compare, contrast, be able to really understand the material and be able to manipulate it. That is what analytical intelligence is all about. The next type of intelligence that Robert Sternberg argued that many people have is something called creative intelligence. When you think of creative, just think about making something, having an imagination to create something, to invent, to design. And it could be anything. You could use paintings, you can use colors, you can use hardware, anything, as long as you are inventing. But before inventing, of course, you first have to imagine what you are going to create. And the last intelligence that Sternberg argued that we have is something called practical intelligence. So before you're able to even have practical intelligence, one, you have to understand what the knowledge is that you're receiving. And then if you're being practical, you have to be able to put what you have learned, you have to be able to use it and to apply it, put it into practice, and really use it to solve problems. However, Sternberg, although he had these three types of intelligences he believed that most people have, he also believed that there are very few tasks where only the analytical, the creative, and the practical side of all of us, they only require one. The tasks only require one. Sternberg argued that usually people have to use analytics, creativity, and practicality in all of the tasks that they do. They have to use all of them. They don't just purely have to use one. Someone else that we're going to talk about is Gardner. He also went into understanding multiple intelligences, but there's a difference between the traditional view of intelligence compared to what Gardner believed and studied when he studied children. So the traditional understanding of intelligence, people ask, how smart are you? How smart are you? Can you pass this IQ test? What's the score that you get on this IQ test? That determines how smart you are. But Gardner said, how are you smart? So what Gardner really did was really try to emphasize children's and individual strengths. He believed that children may be better adept to certain skills compared to other types of skills. And so he said we have this multiple intelligence. And so that's what we're going to get into. And he, with trying to understand how children are smart, what skills that they possess, that allowed for Gardner to understand the broader profile of individual capabilities. That means you're not just able to understand how high they can get on the IQ test, but you're also able to understand the different types of skills that they have. And we're going to get into those types of skills. As you can see, he believed that there were multiple intelligences, and we are going to get into each one of those. The first one, type of skill that we're going to talk about are verbal skills. And so we talked about interpersonal skills earlier, and how a type of interpersonal skill are verbal skills. You have to be able to understand words and be able to express them. And so people that are skilled, have verbal skills, include speakers or journalists. Mathematical skills, again, being able to understand and carry out operations. And people that usually are adept with mathematical skills include scientists, engineers, accountants. Spatial skills. Spatial skills is something that I do not have, but so many people do, and that's being able to think three-dimensionally. You have to be able to think three-dimensionally first before you're able to do what you saw in your mind that was three-dimensional. So think about architects, think about artists, sailors. They have to see it in their mind three-dimensionally first before they're able to bring it to the 3D world. Another type of skill or multiple intelligence that Gardner argued was for the bodily kinesthetic skills. And that's just being able to move your body, to manipulate objects with your body. So you can think about dancers, think about surgeons that are highly skilled with their hands, have to be very precise. Think about athletes, people that make crafts. All of these types of people would fall into having these bodily kinesthetic skills. Next, we have musical skills. Again, these are, quite obvious. Have to be able to have rhythm or tone. That includes musicians, music therapists, even producers. Intrapersonal skills. So this is something that a lot of people are seeking now as they go to therapy, being able to understand themselves and to be able to effectively direct one's life. So think about psychologists, theologians. And you may just know some people that are very in tune with themselves and their feelings. They would be intrapersonal. Intra means inside. And then we have interpersonal skills, being able to effectively interact with others, such as teachers or mental health professionals. And we also have naturalistic skills, meaning that you are able to understand and have this beautiful connection with nature. Thinking about zoologists, people that work with animals, people that are botanists that work with plants. You have this pattern, being able to observe and understand nature. Gardner also explored another type of intelligence, which is existential intelligence. And this existential intelligence really deals with understanding the meaning of life, questioning life, death, and existence. And for some, that may be preachers, that may be pastors, it can be priests. It can even, you could even have this existential intelligence where you really have this in tune with understanding life and understanding death and why we exist. So those are the types of intelligences that Gardner believed that people can have, those types of skills that people can have. Daniel Goldman also talked about emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is something that is becoming more well known and studied, especially in children. We talk about social and emotional intelligence. And there are 5 parts to emotional intelligence: self awareness, self regulation, social skills, empathy, and motivation. Really, emotional intelligence is being able to understand your emotions and express them appropriately, and being able to understand the emotions of others and change or modify your behavior based on how other people are displaying their emotions. Okay, that's it for the types of intelligences. In the next section of the slides, we're going to talk about the influences of heredity and environment on intelligence. I'll see you all on the next slide.